G'day boys and girls, I get accused of not doing enough 12 volt CXT Makita reviews, so in this one I'm going to give you two. First up, the UP100D secateurs, or if you're not au fait with the Francais, then they are pruning shears. This is a nice looking bit of kit and there's some good little extras in the box as well. But wait, on tools, you said there was two CXT tools being reviewed in this video. Yep, that's right, there most certainly is. We've got the UP100D sitting on the bench there, and I've got the UC100D in my hand. And what is a UC100D?
Baby chainsaw!
That's right, it is a small pruning chainsaw. I'm reviewing the two of these together because I think they make a great combo out in the garden. But first up, we will be taking a look at what's in the pruning box. Because not only do you get the tool, but you also get a nifty little pouch. Look at this, isn't this nice? So you get a pouch with the tool in, and strap there to hold it in place at the top, the magnet latch, and you can thread that onto a belt. So that's great if you are working in an orchard or a vineyard or something like that, or even just in your home garden. You want it on you, you're pulling things down, snip, snip, chuck it back in here, pull a couple of things around, shove something in the shredder, snip, snip again. You know how it goes. Also in the box, obviously, we have the instructions, some oil to keep it running smoothly, some tools for adjustments, changing the blades. We've got a couple of Allen keys there and a little wrench. And this little box here, which when I first opened it up, I thought, what is this? It's like a little box of planer blades or something. And then thing open, it is a sharpening stone. They've included a little baby sharpening stone. Now that's going the extra mile, isn't it? No doubt the sharpening stone and the tools, of course, will be lost by the time I actually need them. So was it worth the wait? Well, I use one of these tools almost every day, chopping branches for parrots. I have 3 of them, and now I finally have a Makita. This is the one I've been waiting for years. Maybe I'll be able to get rid of my other ones now. We'll see. I probably won't, because it's nice to have several of them sticking around the place so that you don't have to go hunting for things. One thing I will say right from the start, this one feels the nicest. It's built the nicest. It is a good tool. Before you even use it, you can just feel it is a very nice tool. That's probably because it's sort of designed along the production line style of tools from Makita. There's no TPE overmolding. There's no sort of extraneous stuff. It's just screwed together plastic. Let's get on with the job. That plastic being PA6 with 30% glass. But it's, when I first got out of the box, I looked at it and I thought it's just a little bit nicer finished than most Makita tools. You know, the clamshell and everything, just a little bit better. No sharp bits, just looks nice, feels good in the hand, and it's a, yeah, just nice tool. And then I saw that it was made in Japan, so maybe that's got something to do with it. I'll let you decide that one. Feature wise, this has something a bit different to some of the other ones that I've got. A few more features than some of them, and one feature I've never seen on any of the ones I've had in the past. First thing that's immediately apparent about it when you pick it up is just it's beautifully weighted. Just sits in your hand nicely because it's only got a 12 amp hour battery on it. No big hefty 18 volt battery or 40 volt battery, just a cute little 2 amp hour 12 volt battery makes this a very nice light tool that feels very comfortable in the hand, and that I imagine you could easily use all day without it getting too cumbersome on the wrist. We have a couple of membrane buttons down the bottom here. The one on the left turns the tool on. When the tool is on, you will see a green flashing light at the top. When I now double tap the trigger, the green light goes solid. If it starts flashing again, you'll need to double tap that trigger to get the light solid again. It will time out after a certain length of time. I do not know what that time is yet, but it is a lot longer than the last one of these I reviewed. If you get both red and green light going, that means your battery is flat or you've overloaded the tool. If you take the battery off, stick it back on. If it's overloaded, you might be away again, but if the battery's flat, obviously change the battery. If you get one solid red light, no green light, then you may have a problem with the tool. I'd try changing the battery. If that doesn't work, there's something wrong with the tool that may need a service. Here's hoping that doesn't happen in this video. Back down the bottom of the tool, the other membrane button is for setting how wide your jaws open on your blade. So you can set it to 19mm or 25mm or 3/4 of an inch and an inch. Basically, that looks like this. This is 1 inch and this is 3/4 of an inch. Some of the other secateurs I have do this and some don't. I tend to always want to cut pretty large stuff, so I tend to leave them on the highest opening. Because they cut so quick, it sort of doesn't matter. But if you were working in a vineyard or something and you're cutting things the same thickness all the time, or rose garden, then that smaller opening would be ideal. And it means it's a little bit quicker as well to get the job done. And you can get into slightly tighter gaps between stems and branches. This next feature is not on any of the other 3 that I own or have reviewed, and it's this. When you pull the trigger, on most of them they go like that. They fully actuate. Or if you let go halfway through, they stop and go back up. But they don't do this. I can hold this at any point. So you have way more control, way more finger control. So if, for example, you're just trying to splice into a branch or something like that to try and make it root, then you do have that precision control to just go into the depth you want and then pull back out again. You could also use that for maybe other things like stripping wires or something, because not only do these things cut through greenery, branches, twigs, stems, etc. really well, they also cut through a number of other things, such as, Makita probably don't want me to say this, cables and pipes, butylene pipes, even electrical conduit, wiring in your house, all sorts of things. Not so good on the blade, obviously, but they do give you a sharpening stone. And when you have sharpened it, if you need to adjust, you can adjust this so that it comes down further if you've worn the blade away. And you can do that. It explains all that in the instructions. I won't really go into it, but it is just a matter of setting this with the trigger to where you want it, pushing a couple of buttons, and yeah, away you go. It also, of course, explains how to pull all this apart and take the back off and change your blades for when you need to replace them or sharpen them. Something you will need to do on a more regular basis than that, though, is to oil it. So there's a little ball in there that needs to be depressed. That's why they've given you this oil with the nozzle. Push that in there, depress the ball, it's quite tight, put a couple of drips in there and away you go. They recommend you do that every hour of sort of constant use, or to be honest, I've only ever done it 2 or 3 times on the ones I've gotten and they seem to be good. But if you did it every time you used it out in the garden, if you're using it on the weekend or something, just give it a squirt of oil towards the end of the day or at the beginning of the day, and you should be all sweet. Because the other ones I have of this, which aren't built to this quality, have had thousands of cuts, thousands and thousands. One actually has a digital meter on it that tells you how many, and I've done thousands of cuts and I've only oiled it once. The blades are still sharp. They're really cool little tools. So hopefully this one lives up to all the hype I've just given it, and it cuts nicely. It is only 25mm in the throat there, so you're not going to be cutting massive stuff with this. But let's go and see just how well it does cut. Now that that's on the ground, what could I possibly dice that up with? This is what happens if you try and cut something a little too big or a little too tough for it. See that red light come on? Unlike most of the other ones I've got, it doesn't pop straight open. You've still got to take your finger off the trigger. None of them will cut through this. This is a pretty tough palm, this one. This is a weed vine that grows around here, and it cuts through this super easy. Tries to strangle everything, including itself. How about some bamboo? This is about the maximum that this tool will do. Look, it's pretty full in the jaws there. I like cutting through that last little bit. The bamboo can be a bit of a pain to cut with lots of things. Very fibrous. Here's some dry bamboo. Right at the maximum of what the jaws will hold, size-wise. I've now got the tool set on the small opening, just so I can trim this up. Nasty plant. It's nice chopping spiky things like this Phoenix Roebelini here, because you don't have to move your hand up and down, so there's less chance of you spiking yourself. You can just pull the little trigger. Done. Now that's a good bit of parrot food. Well, not so much parrot food as parrot entertainment. So this is what the branches end up looking like after the parrot's finished with them. And for anything bigger than that, I guess we swap over to the baby chainsaw.
Baby chainsaw time!
Now it's quite a funny looking thing, and it's quite tall here on the bench. It's annoying having it in shot actually because there's so much dead space around it. So let's take a more close-up look at some of the features. It has a rubber protector here for your hand, which may not be rubbery where you are. Some of these are solid plastic, I've noticed, depending on where you get them. This is the Japanese model, and by Japanese model, it is not made in Japan, it's made in China, but it is the one that is released to the domestic market in Japan. This is a 100mm or 4-inch chainsaw, which makes it very small and stubby looking. They've gone with a sort of full height bar almost, but a very short length. They've also gone with a massive chain. This is basically a full-size chain size you would put on a full-size chainsaw. It's not some micro sort of chain like Stihl use. It's full friggin' whack. 0.325, and being that it's such a large aggressive style chain, can be a little bit clunky in the cutting department. It sort of wants to just tear stuff out quickly, and so because of the size of the tool, it makes it sort of a bit jumpy. Not too bad, does the job, but not as smooth as the smaller toothed chain. It is an Oregon chain, so that's good. One of the most interesting things about it, I mean, as you can see, it's got the easy opening bit on the front here. Remember, these are designed primarily, I'm guessing, towards homeowners rather than professional users. It has a self-tensioning, see that? It springs back out by itself, so you don't have to try and adjust it yourself. You don't have screw holes in the front where you would put it through, or screw holes in here. It will do it by itself, so that's pretty cool. Hopefully it doesn't get bunged up with junk and stop working. So that's clearly aimed towards DIY or homeowner type users that aren't au fait with how chainsaws work. That brings me to my next thing, chainsaw safety. Most people who are going to be using these aren't going to be used to using large chainsaws, so they've got to have a few more safety features than somebody who is familiar with a chainsaw would care about probably. And that is things like this handle here. That's one, but there's 3 points that they have to have. So we've got a pretty good brake on it. That's one of them. Chainsaws normally have a brake, you know, if they kick back, it hits the handle, tool's cut out. It's got this cover over the top here, so it protects you from accidentally putting your hand on top of there, or if it kicked back, if you manage to make this kick back, you're quite talented probably. If it kicks back, you've got this over the top of the chain to stop it slamming into your forehead or anything like that. Now, you wouldn't normally have that on a real chainsaw, because you of course have the bar up here with the brake on it. When it kicks back, that actuates, and yeah, so it's got that. It's also got TPE overmolding over the top of the motor casing here. Why would they bother doing that? Because this is where you put your second hand. What? Yeah, this is where you put your second hand, because it's a safety thing, because if you've got your second hand there, you can stop it from kicking back at you. Not that this would ever have any power, as I've said, to kick back at you. But also, I guess, if you've got your hand here and you're a casual non-user of a chainsaw, then you've got your hand there, you're not holding onto a piece of material and chopping away and taking your thumb or something off. So I guess that's a theory, although to me holding that there makes it feel way more uncomfortable and more awkward and dangerous to use than just doing it one-handed, as everybody will. Let's face it, this is a one-handed chainsaw. You will be hard-pressed to find somebody who's holding it like this. But for regulatory and safety reasons, companies have to do these things and make these things just so they can get them into the country to be able to sell them. So that's fair enough. So this is a two-handed chainsaw, not a one-handed chainsaw. Ding! Something I like about this tool that I haven't seen on many of the other little chainsaws this size is a lot of them don't have oilers. But here we go, we have an oiler on this one, so that's good. Without an oiler, your chain and your bar don't last too well, so you push that there to open that, pops that up, turn it, and away you go, bung your oil, and make sure you keep an eye on that. As you can see, of course, brushless motor. PA6 with 30% glass, yet it's got the chainsaw glossiness to it, so that oil and stuff wipes off easy and you can clean it down easy, rather than the rough matte finish that most glass PA6 ends up looking like. It basically looks like polycarbonate. Now, if you're not too familiar with chainsaws, you may not know that the chains stretch as you use them, particularly when they are new. You will get the chains starting to sag as they stretch. It's a normal thing that chains on chainsaws do. But I thought you said that this was self-tensioning tools. Well, it is, but it can't keep doing that as you're using it, else it wouldn't be tight enough to hold the bar in place. So you just have to give it a little release here. And if you watch there, see it's pulled back out. If it hasn't pulled all the way, just give it a bit of a tug there, tighten it back up. And now she's not loose anymore. It's just slightly loose, which is what you want. You need to have a little bit of play in it, else you'll burn out the edge of your chain and the track on your bar. So you don't want to have them super tight, and you always want to make sure, of course, that you have oil in the reservoir. So make sure there's oil in there. Yep, there is. We're good to go again. Like the pruners, you can of course use it for bamboo. Won't give you as nice a finish on the bamboo as the pruners do. In those last few shots you would have seen this thing jumping around a bit more than it was earlier in the video. That is because this chain was getting a bit loose. So if you feel it starting to jump around like that, check your chain, loosen that off, it'll tighten itself up, tighten that back up. Loosen, tighten, tighten. That's the way to do it. Now the chain speed is pretty low. She's only 8 meters per second, but you wouldn't want this thing whacking around at the same speed as a real chainsaw. So 8 meters a second, hopefully that'll be enough. That is quite low compared to the real ones that I have sitting in the background here. So on the left, the the 18 by 2 rear handle is 20 meters. The one in the middle here, the little 18 volt, is 24. Although it sort of doesn't feel that fast because that one doesn't have a lot of torque, cuts out quite easy. And my go-to, the one-handed, sorry, not one-handed, the top handle arborist, not one-handed, I always use it two-handed, 24.8 meters per second on that one. It's a good little saw, that one. Perfect all-rounder saw, I reckon. Oh, one thing I haven't spoken about, bucking spikes. As you can see, these three saws have metal bucking spikes. This one doesn't have bucking spikes because it's so tiny, you don't need bucking spikes. But it does have a piece of metal in the same place of where your bucking spikes normally would be. That's just to help protect the tool, basically, by the looks of things. Because if your piece of timber's hard up against there, you don't want it cracking all this plastic. So that's just a good backstop. Right, enough talk, let's go cut.
Just grab your baby chainsaw and go get cutting.
Remember now, don't reach up with one hand. Don't do what Donnie Don't does. It is quite easy to stall compared to larger chainsaws, but that's to be expected really. So if you just keep a gentle pressure on it, it seems to be alright. So that is about 2 inches in diameter, that one. That one's about 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches. And if you want to know about the cut quality, well, it's actually pretty good for how aggressive it feels, you know. It's not too bad at all. So this, of course, has gardening applications, but what about building applications? How will it go against some battens and some purlins? And maybe even a 4x2. Not too bad. Right, 4x2 time.
She did it. She did it.
So I think these two tools go great together as a nice little combo pair. Chop through up to 1 inch with this, and then use this to do 3 or 4 inch sort of stuff. 4 inch would be sort of absolute maximum, really. I mean, if you really want, you could work your way through a 6 inch log or something, but it's not really designed for that. It's probably only really designed for, you know, you don't want to go past the tip when you're using a chainsaw, so ideally from about the hole back, that area there, so say 3 inches or close to it. Is there anything else I haven't told you? This has a your standard sort of push down trigger lock, and it has it on both sides, so left or right handed, not a problemo. Let's wrap up the pruner first. It's very nice to use, it's very nice to hold, it's very comfortable in the hand, it's very light. Let's actually just weigh it. With a 2 amp hour battery on it, it comes in at only 890 grams. 890 grams, less than a kg with the battery. Without the battery, she's only 670 grams. I mean, that's a very light tool. Very nice and comfortable to use. It's got good features compared to all the other pruners I have. So I've got 3 other ones, and this one's definitely got the most features. It stays on the longest, which is nice. It's quick and easy to turn everything on. There's not a big long wait period like there is with some of them. And yeah, it's just really nice little tool to use. It doesn't have the jaw capacity, the cutting capacity that some of the other ones have, going up to 30 to 40 millimeters. This one's only 25. Hopefully if they did an 18 volt version, they would bump this up to somewhere between 30 and 40 millimeters in cut diameter. But for what it is, this is a very nice, well thought out, well designed, well balanced, nice tool. And the fact that it comes with that pouch, super good if you're using it for what I do a lot of the time with these things, which, as I've probably already mentioned in the video, I use them a lot when I'm using my shredder and I just need to cut off annoying branches that are jamming out the side and catching on things. So just whip them off first with this, or as it gets jammed, and then I can just slip that in the pouch, because the problem with me up until this point in time, I stick it down on the ground and then I go to grab the next branch, and then I'm looking around thinking, where the hell did I just put that thing? But if it's on your hip in a pouch, perfect. Little holster makes this thing very, very nice to use. So it's a good tool, and it comes with nice accessories. Now, the chainsaw.
Baby chainsaw time!
Not quite as cool, I don't feel, as the pruner. It's a little jumpy to use because of that chain. It's a little bit, she's a bit rough. If you want to know the chain that is on here, it's an Oregon 80 TXL-26E, and you won't find a hell of a lot of information about those online, unless of course you can speak Japanese. It'd be interesting to see how it went with something a bit finer, like one of the Pico micro blades from Stihl. There might be some differences in the chain that this comes with where you live. Maybe one day I'll do a whole video on different chainsaw chains and sizes and what they're used for and that sort of stuff. But for today, I think we'll leave that one there. And if you want this as a proper, you know, go-to chainsaw, then forget it. You know, this is just for cutting very small things in suburban gardens. It's not a contractor grade chainsaw. It's only 12 volts, remember. I've been using it with the 4 amp hour to make sure I get the most out of it. With the 2 amp hour battery, you'll suck through the juice pretty quick. This one's done pretty well with 4 amp hour battery. It lasted longer than I thought it would. But on a 2 amp hour, you might not have quite as much power, and you're going to suck through it a lot faster. Twice as fast, in fact. But it is a well-built tool. It's solid. It's got an oiler, which is nice. So it's got basically all the features you need. And remember, always use it with your hand on the top, as I did in the video. I never took my hand off there. Always used it two-handed. And of course I did have safety glasses on, a face shield, ear plugs and earmuffs, my chaps, my steel cap boots, and of course a hard hat. So make sure you've got all that gear before you buy one of these, and stay safe chopping in your garden. Thanks for watching. Hopefully Makita will keep making some 12 volt tools, you know, because these two are nice little 12 volt tools, and it's a good little garden size having those smaller batteries, you know, for ladies around the garden. Is that sexist? Well, I've said it now. You know, so old people in the garden and stuff, they don't want heavy things. So at under a kg, under 900 grams, that's great. And what about this? What does this weigh with its heaviest configuration? A 4 amp hour battery. Let's take a wee look-see. 1.65 kgs. So once again, not too heavy, one of the lightest chainsaws you're ever going to find. So like I say, hopefully Makita makes some more 12 volt stuff. They've just released a 12 volt one of those. It'd be good to see them releasing a lot more 12 volt stuff to perhaps take on Milwaukee, but we'll have to wait and see. Once again, thanks for watching, and I will see you on another one soon.
Baby chainsaw time!
Probably won't be a 12 volt Makita one.
Baby chainsaw!
Cheers guys.